How's it going, Raiders? My name is Ryan, and this is TRC episode 30. On today's show, we are going to be taking a brief look back at Legion, but mostly talking about what our speculations on BfA are. Without further ado, tanks, everyone's ready. Pull timer on you.
The heroes have made it to the glorious finale.
Alright, here we go, guys. Set up your chairs, focus up, let's do this. Alright, guys, get buffed up.
Okay, so we want to soak the annihilations,
Get your shit together.
then we want to target the annihilator,
Put the big girl panties on.
move back to avoid damage from eradication,
I think I've disconnected.
then we target decimator,
Can we pull already?
then we target boss.
I hope you can swim in molten lava.
Let's kill this dragon.
Welcome back, Raiders. As I've already stated, my name is Ryan, and you are listening to the Raiders Confessional podcast, where we talk all things in-game PvE-wise in the world of Azeroth. Today marks 2 more weeks until BfA launches. Legion is coming to a conclusion, and we have 2 more resets before BfA will be live. Exciting news. But before we get into that, joining me as always from the land of Denmark and the land of Canada are Marty and Oreo. Marty and Oreo, how are you guys today?
I don't know about Oreo, but I'm pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
How are you, Ryan?
You know, doing okay. Slept in, ate some food, listened to this mediocre podcast called The Blue Recluse.
That's so crap. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man, I've been riding solo all weekend. My girlfriend's been out of town, and I've been mostly.
How does the shirt chair look? Is the shirt chair then filled with shirts?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My shirt chair is usually always full because I actually have our rooms are separate. You know, I have this office / studio spare bedroom space behind me here, and she's not allowed to come in here and moan or complain about anything. This is my space to make as dirty as I wish. So
Not
this.
bad.
Yeah, the shirt chair is always full. She hates it because when she comes in, she's like, "Where am I supposed to sit?" I'm like, "In your other room." No, I don't say that. She cooks for me, so I try to be as nice as possible.
Yeah.
You know, all jokes aside, but yeah, no, I have my own little room behind this Death Knight Worgen here. But yeah, no, otherwise good. So, Ori, I know you've been off flipping breakers.
Yeah, I'm on call for work right now, so when the phone rings,
I
need
did.
to run away.
Yeah, I did want to take a moment, guys. There may be a brief interruption in the show. We will adjust as quickly as possible. Oreo may have to take off on a moment's notice. He is on call. Unfortunately, it only happens like once every blue moon or whatever. So we're just going to kind of roll with the punches, so to speak. But other than that, I got to ask you guys, content is coming to a wind down. The pre-expansion has been somewhat of a letdown, in my opinion. I guess my question to you guys is, what are you doing? I find myself hitting that login button out of habit, but then getting in and be like, what do I do now?
Since I think I stated last time that I was actually on a break from World of Warcraft, but then the pre-patch came in with some storyline quests, and it was actually nice looking back into World of Warcraft and not feeling like I was bored, at least for that hour it took to get through it. And we'll probably get another episode of that this week, right? I think it didn't end there. Because I guess we know what's going to happen, right? Because it was all, so it's not a really spoiler to say that, is it? Because it was already said at BlizzCon last year.
Wait, what?
You know,
it's
the tree is going to burn. That small tree one.
Yeah,
So,
spoiler alert.
Slight spoiler alert if you didn't know. I'm sorry. But no, so I've been doing that, and then I was like, oh, this was the Alliance side. I wonder what happened on the Horde side. So I docked my one Horde character and actually did it on their side as well. And yeah, interesting stuff going on there. And then I sort of stayed on my character and played some PvP. I killed Alliance players.
That's
Marty,
okay.
Marty, this is a PVE show.
I know. So I'm out the door. Is that okay? Thank
Yeah.
you. Nice to meet
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to be a strictly PVE show moving forward. I feel like with,
How are you going to do it? Because do you want the XP buff? Do you want the hassle in the beginning? Because what I'm thinking is probably not straight from launch, but when we get like a few hours in or something, then it started to thin out among people, then I might actually turn on war mode. But before that, hell no. No.
Marty, pun intended. I'm rolling the tank, and I've always played on PvP servers, and I always leave PvP on, so I'm gonna be PvP on
Okay.
right out the gate,
Okay.
throwing my kegs at people.
Maybe I know what if I do that. I know what will happen. I'll have PvP on, go in, do the first quest, get ganked, and be like, no, I'm not good doing this, and then start cursing and go back, Stormwind, turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple YouTube videos out there now that say if you want to hit 120 as fast as possible, doing war mode is not the way to do it.
Mm. I don't think not at least not in the beginning when everybody is at the same place. But normally, I'm not one of the fastest levelers, but I'm not one of the slowest either. So I'm usually ahead of the pack at some point within like a few hours. So I would think that that's probably the time to maybe turn it on and then just see what happens from there. But from straight out the gate, hell no, because everybody will be at the same place. Or will they is the question, because we level up in different zones, don't we?
Yeah, they only come across the pond per se in order to do their class hall thing or their order or campaign thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I know is that if you're not with that main group that logs on right at launch to do your leveling, you know that moment you hit a certain zone with PvP on, there's gonna be that dick of a rogue sitting there.
Oh, yes.
See, and I don't think PvP is gonna be our biggest issues. If pre-patch was any sort of indication of what's gonna be happening, I think the servers are gonna be the bigger issue.
And that's the one thing that I worried about the most this year, because I remember, I think it was when I was on the Blizzard umbrella where Dusty asked me if I was happy about the whole global launch. It is at the same time, because usually you guys get it a little bit before us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, actually, I'm not happy about this, because you guys are the guinea pigs, and then if something breaks, then they have time to fix it until the EU launch. So so can we go back to that?
I don't care. Doesn't affect me none.
That's what happened with this pre-patch is it went live and then it broke and nobody could get on until like, what was it, like 11 o'clock Eastern?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think at least that's the big chunk, because the game is basically added right now, right? So we just need that switch to go off and we actually have access to it. So hopefully all the bad stuff has happened already.
We say that every other year, and
Legion was a pretty good launch, wasn't it? If I remember.
They had a few issues, but yeah, I think comparatively speaking, it was one of the better launches.
I just remember, at least from the EU side, it was just switched on, and then we were on. Then we were in it, and off we go. So
I don't think you could have a launch worse than Warlords, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, Warlords is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of past expansions, before we jump in today's topic, where we're gonna talk some speculations on BfA and how we think the expansion is gonna go, I'd like to take a brief moment. We are not going to have a giant conclusion episode for Legion. Our calendar is just kind of booked up from here until launch, with some other episodes. And so today was going to kind of serve as a brief conclusion to Legion, but mostly looking at our speculation for BfA. But I did want to announce that starting next week, we will have the Ask Mr. Robot crew on for an interview talking about some of the stuff they have coming out for BfA. And then the following week, the Raider.io people, the day before launch, so the 12th of August, they will be on talking about some of their new stuff. as well.
I'm looking
So
forward to talking to the Raider IO guys because I'm about doing the finishing touch for our guild website, and I have used their API to just
yeah,
automatically pull data like first kills and raid progression and server ranks and stuff like that. So I'm just looking forward to, hopefully they will tell me that they don't change the API too much, so all that I have done is for nothing.
I can't answer that question, but I can tell you, we've
On
had them on
air.
the show a while ago, and I've been talking to them off the air and stuff like that. I tend to stay in touch with them, and they have some pretty cool stuff coming. And I too am
Hmm.
excited to talk to them. And we actually, funny story, they used to run a website called WoW Jutsu way back in the day, one of the original WoW rankings websites. And due to some work issues, in all actuality, they had to put a stop to it, and they came back in Legion, and they've just been doing a
Did you
fantastic
say
job.
wow, Juju?
WoW Jutsu,
Oh, Jutsu. Okay.
yep. Some of you early raiders may remember that website, but it was back in like vanilla BC that time. But yeah, no, we're excited to have both those groups on. They both have some great stuff coming, and they're both doing really well right now, despite things that would maybe put a halt to their efforts. But no, they've been going strong and doing some great stuff. So I just wanted to throw that brief announcement out there, and we are excited to have those guys on. And then moving back to what I was originally going to ask you guys is, I wanted to take a little bit to kind of maybe go around the table here and talk about how have your feelings been of Legion as we've gone through it up till now, taking a look back, where does Legion fall in the overall ranking for you in terms of all the expansions we've had out of Blizzard so far? I guess Oreo, we'll start with you.
Um, I'd say it's at the top, not the best, but definitely one of the top expansions they've put out so far. Uh, there is a few things that kind of drove you crazy with the legendary system, the AP system. It just seemed like you were grinding constantly. Uh, I guess I'm more of like the Wrath Lich King was my favorite. Really, that for me was probably one of the best expansions they've ever done. Just all around, with catch-up mechanics and all that stuff. I felt like there was some catch-up mechanics through world quests and stuff for Legion, but it just wasn't quite at the point that something like Wrath was at. I my biggest gripe has always been the legendaries for this. When they originally spoke about legendaries, they said it was going to be strictly utility based. You're going to have like increased healing while you're standing still, or like increased movement speed and stuff like that. While there was a few of those put in the game like that, I felt that nobody really went for those. They went for the ones that boosted their spec or their class's damage or their healing output or stuff like that. And that makes it frustrating if you're trying to target. You have a list. Let's say you have a list of 20 legendaries for your class, and you need these two specific ones to be competitive. Well, you might get one or two legendaries every couple weeks, and then for a lot of people that just turns them off instantly. I know that Ryan and I talked to a guy who was looking to apply to our guild, and that's what he said is he was in a like a cutting edge pushing high mythic guild, and within 3 weeks he said he was done because he couldn't do the AP grind to get all his traits. He couldn't do the Legion legendary grind because I think he said his first one was Sifus, and then he proceeded to like pretty much alt F4 and see you later, guys. I'm done with this expansion. So I think
Yeah, that
that
always
was
bodes well for making a guild feel comfortable at bringing you on board too.
yeah, he didn't last very long, but I feel like that was more the negative downside to it. The positives is you always had a reason to log on every day, whether that was um, for world quests or to do your mythic pluses, or you logged in for more than just raid times for PvE, um, and more than to do your battlegrounds for PvP as well. Um, Now that became kind of more of a chore near the end of it. It felt like it was really something fun to do. You go and grind AP World Quest at the beginning, but at the end it was like go on, do your 4, get your emissary done, turn it in, log off. So I feel like it was great at the beginning, but as any expansion goes on in age, the flaws start to show. So that's why it's not my favorite, but it's definitely not the worst.
What about you, Marty?
What he just said.
Well, I
No,
second that motion, and we'll move on.
yeah, exactly. Let's move on. This is great podcasting, guys. Uh, no, I totally have to agree that it's definitely in my top 3 as well. It's up there with Wrath of the Lich King and Mist of Pandaria. I'm one of those MOP guys. Ryan loves it, I know. Secretly, he loves it. No, I think it's definitely in top 3. It was, I think it turned to the better towards the end when they started fixing some of all the small kinks there were, and it got a little bit easier to get legendaries and things like that. But definitely in the beginning, it was a huge issue with the legendaries. There was a few mage specs or something that if you wanted to be competitive, you needed the specific legendary for that. And things like that. And I totally agree with that. I think it should have mainly been utility legendaries. There shouldn't have been damage increase legendaries among them, because as soon as there is that, then people will crunch the numbers, and everybody will have that specific legendary they'll go after. And the AP grind was fun in the beginning, but it started to get a little bit tedious as well. And I definitely feel like this is probably the expansion that I've played the most. I mean, while I was raiding, I was logging in pretty much every day to get my emissaries done, or at least every other day, and then do 2 sets of emissaries. What I did like, though, was that I didn't actually have to log in every day, that you could actually save up 3 times emissaries. So you actually didn't have to like in the good old daily quest days, you actually didn't have to log in every day. I thought that was nice, at least. So, but overall, I think it was pretty good. The story was decent all the way through. You couldn't sometimes notice that stuff gets changed. For instance, the whole leveling experience was a little bit disjointed because of this system. The scaling system got into the game so late in the development process, so they actually had to rewrite some story and stuff to make it fit the system and things like that. And you can feel that. So, but I think overall it worked really, really well. And that's also why I'm really looking forward to BfA, because now they've had this system, they've tested it, and they have the scaling technique done. They have all these scenario in the world, like we had with the invasions. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I'm just listening.
Okay, good. I just got a weird.
I'm just so enthralled by what you're saying. You know.
Yeah.
No, I just got I got a weird what's it called, error message on Discord I haven't seen before. But anyway, if you can hear me, then it's fine. I don't know. I lost my train of thought right there. But yeah, no. Overall, I think it was a good expansion. Definitely up there. Oh yeah, and BfA, I'm looking forward to it now, because now they have all these systems in place. So it seems like if they want to actually tell a good story, they definitely have the tools for it right now. So I'm looking forward to see what they have in store for us, especially if you guys have read the book. Yeah, interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'd have to say I tend to agree. It definitely falls in top 3 for me, with Wrath and BC as well. The only reason I wouldn't slate Legion at the very top for me is just because of I would have rather been able to stick it through with one group rather than do one group for the first half and then 6 groups for the second half. But just to kind of clarify for anybody who may be first coming onto the show for the first time today, that was not because of any sort of group fault or whatever. It just kind of was just the way things kind of fell. Oreo and I, we were looking to be a bit more hardcore, so to speak, with our content, and then get further along, and certain groups were unable to offer that, or certain groups kind of had to break up for various reasons, GMs leaving, whatever. It was just kind of the way things fell, and we just dealt with it as it came, and went our way through that. So for me, one of the big setbacks for me was obviously if I could have had a group that was both A, great personality wise, and B, on the same page from a progression standpoint, I think this expansion would have arguably been tied for the best for me personally. My gripes with this expansion, like a lot of everybody else, I can't personally gripe about this, but I understand the problem with it. The legendaries were very problematic. I've been very lucky on almost every character I've mained with my
I was about to
legendaries.
say nobody's as lucky as you.
Yeah, no, I've been very lucky. Even my one character that didn't get one of the two best in slots had two really good legendaries. They were, third and fourth, and they were kind of cross specs, so I could swap specs as needed. That was my warlock, and I saw really no issues from a DPS standpoint on my warlock. So I can't personally complain. But as somebody who ran a guild as a raid leader from the first half and then hopped around for guilds, I definitely saw the issues with it as players, swapped mains to help out the group. And there were more than once somebody like, oh, we need a mage. I'll play my mage for this next tier, and they never got their legendaries, and you never saw them on the charts where they should have been, or whatever. And yeah, Oreo's raising his hand. He was one of those, and it was incredibly frustrating from that standpoint. It always felt like there was something holding us back. And that's partially because we weren't ever one of those groups that raided 5 days a week, and made it mandatory that our characters all, our raiders all keep 5 characters at max level and play 15 hours a day. So to me, those were the only groups outside of people that got extremely lucky, as I raised my hand, that were ever really not succumbed to the legendary thing, which they'll probably argue with you because the first 2 weeks they were deleting characters and re-rolling new 110s to try and get those 2 easy legendaries, and because they have a greater chance to get legendaries for your first 2. But that's neither here nor there. So legendaries were a big setback for me. I didn't like how on one hand we had emissaries and world quests that not only did it give something to do all the time, which was fantastic, but it also felt like if you didn't do it, or you skipped a week, or if you whatever, like if something came up and you missed out on that, like it felt like you were neglecting something you should be doing. So that felt bad. And then on top of that, once you got to,
but I think that was more of a feeling, right? Because actually, how the system was with because you get every week you get more and more artifact power. So technically, you're never really that much behind.
Well, and that's the thing.
But it feels bad when you don't.
Right.
Because I did it religiously every day as well, and if I wasn't around, you didn't hear it from me, but some guildies might have got my account details and done it for me, and things like that. This is not live. This is not being transmitted, right? So no.
But see, that's just the thing, though. Go ahead.
You'll notice that, especially early when they started doing the artifact knowledge, which was their idea for the catch-up mechanic. Originally, you had to log in to get your artifact. That's your in-game name. I'm going to report. Apparently, you've been reported to the authorities, Marty. But with that being their catch-up mechanic, it worked, but it didn't, because you were still always behind when you wanted a new alt. Until they actually came out and said, you know what, we'll put everybody at 40. Everybody's at 40. Now you're all in an even playing field. It's how I felt that it should have been at the beginning, because you still had to grind the artifact power even after you had that rank. It's not like they were giving you free ranks like they were at the end of this expansion with the whole Titan weapon draining thing.
But we never ever reached a ceiling. That was my issue. Is like even every tier when I switched my mains and I went after that AP, even when we were on even playing field from the knowledge perspective, so how much AP we gained when we did World Quest, whatever, I was never, ever, ever going to be able to catch up, because always, even if I tried my damnedest, I was always going to be a fraction of a percent behind the people that had stayed on the same character from day one. And that to me was an issue, because as somebody who rated at the top difficulty, I wanted to feel like I reached the end point at some point so that I could relax, because I felt like I'm going after this top tier rating and I'm trying to do it at a higher pace than a casual group, I should be able to reach those endpoints, those plateaus, and feel like I can relax and go play and all whatever. So for me, that was my second gripe, was there was a lot of this content that provided something to do every single day, but it felt like you had to do it every single day. And I didn't feel like I ever got to a point where I didn't feel like I have to do it anymore until like 2 weeks ago, when I finally hung up the rating hat and we decided to make TRC, which I guess was probably more like 5 or 6 weeks ago. But it just, to me, moving forward, I would really like to see a system to where things are truly optional. You know what I mean? Like, you don't feel like, even from a top rater's perspective, if I decide to take a few days off, a week off, whatever, I don't feel like I ever fall behind or get to a point where I can never catch up fully. Like, to me, having ceilings in place, like if you like put a cap at knowledge or put a cap at the amount of traits you can get with each tier, like an actual cap. You know what I mean? I would love
More
to see that.
time-gated content, please. Is what I'm saying.
Oh no, please no. Yeah.
But I love the amount of content Legion had. I love the story from a content perspective of Legion. You know what I mean? I love all that. Legion was a fantastic expansion. And also from a class balance perspective, I know people are going to bitch and moan, which we're gamers. We always can find something to bitch and moan about. But relatively speaking, compared to the other expansions we've had, Legion has been one of the best expansions in terms of class balance.
I think there was a lot of issues in the beginning of the expansion, right? Where, like before we were done with the first tier, but I feel like then they did the whole they started doing the balance patches, and after that it felt like it got a little bit more evened out, right? Isn't that correct? I'm a healer. I feel like healers all the way through has been fairly good, balanced, all of them, except for more movement for holy priestess. But besides that, I think overall it's been pretty good.
With the exception of Affliction Warlocks, this was one of the only expansions I've seen where the classes that were at the top of the charts changed from fight to fight. And it wasn't just like these two classes were the best on AoE fights, no matter what the AoE fight was. And these two classes were best at single target. It was like, these two classes are better here, but these two classes on this other AoE fight are better because you had more burst AoE situations, you had more sustained AoE situations. Like, you had such a variance of fight types. A lot of classes had their day in the sun inside of a tier, so that felt good. You know what I mean? And I really hope to see that moving forward. But Affliction Locks, they just did great on everything, which was irritating. But hopefully that's going to be different moving into BfA. So speaking of BfA, we are now, about half an hour in. Maybe we should finish the last half of the show talking about our expectations for BfA. I'm gonna throw this one to Marty first. Knowing what you do now, and you and I have been working on some other projects. I know Oreo's read the book. You've read the book. We did a bunch of beta testing. We've had a lot of knowledge prior to this expansion launch. Then, like, I know for myself personally, I've had more knowledge of this expansion moving forward than I have in any other expansion launch. So having all that being said, what are your expectations for BfA? Are you hyped? Are you not hyped? Are you weary? What are your thoughts here?
I feel like I'm not really there yet. I think I won't hit it until.
Yeah, you're not, Marty. We got 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I won't be there in 2 weeks. Until in 2 weeks. I don't really feel the hype. Right. Well, I do start feeling the hype now, but I'm not really feeling it yet. And I think it's connected with Legion sort of required you to be online every day and do stuff every day. And I towards the end, I really felt like I was burned out, but kept going just for the sake of the guild and stuff like that. So this break that I've been having, it's for the first time ever, it felt really, really needed. And this is also the expansion where I've played through the whole expansion without actually having a break at some point doing it. So what is that? That's almost like 2 years of constant playing World of Warcraft, right? And I feel like I can feel that right now. So I'm not really too hyped yet, but with the new storylines coming in and the commercials and the digital shorts that they're doing, it is starting slowly to coming creeping right back. So I do suspect that in 2 weeks it will be the complete opposite. I will be like, Ryan, I don't have time to do this podcast. I'm so close to being level 120. So go away. I got stuff to do.
If any of Marty's guild is paying attention, please make sure he hits 120 before that first Sunday. Thank you.
So yeah, but no, I mean, content wise, story wise, lore wise, I I don't really know what to expect. It can go in so many different directions. I feel like, and I'm really looking forward to see Andrin's progression, where he's going to go from now. But I'm even more interested in seeing Sylvanas. What the hell is going on inside of her head? Because I don't trust her anymore. I really don't trust her, especially after I read the book. I don't understand why people still want to play Horde and have her as a war chief. I don't get it. I don't know if it's the alliance side of me speaking, or what it is, but I just really feel like I've lost touch with that character in game. I mean, me as a player sitting outside and having all this knowledge is like, I really don't trust what she's saying. Obviously, any in-game character don't have that knowledge and are probably just following her blindly at the moment. But I'm just really looking forward to see where her arc is going.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. That's probably my biggest excitement right now is these next 2 weeks with those digital shorts that they're doing on each of the three women. The Jaina one was fantastic. For those of you that are, if you've been here since we started going live today or watching the YouTube video version, you've seen that I had her picture and the thumbnail. I just, that whole little clip, man, that was so good. But Oreo, what are your thoughts, man? Are you excited? Not excited? Are you kind of on the fence?
Let's say I'm optimistic, but I also know that things go terribly wrong when you get super hyped about something. I look back to, I'll use the case of WoD. Everybody was so excited going into that. They're like, yeah, we finally get to see like these old war chiefs. We get to like get their story. And then by the end of the first tier, half of them are dead. Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. They'll move the story along with what's left, and then next thing you know, there's only Grom left. That's
At least the leveling was good. I really feel like WoD's leveling experience was actually one of the better ones, but then everything just stopped after that. Nothing really happened.
Pretty much. I felt like they had great storytelling all through all the different zones. You got to meet all the characters, get to know some of them, watch some of them die. Spoiler alert, I guess. Not really, but but then you get to the end. You're like, okay, let's start the end game. There'll be some great story, and then it's just like, what am I doing? Like, what are we even doing? Like, I don't know. Like the whole Gul'dan thing it seemed forced with that,
Yeah.
and I feel like we're going into this new expansion. I feel like the Sylvanas thing is going to be forced. They're going to make her to be a bad guy, and I have a feeling that we're going to see at at the end. I feel like we're going to see like a Garrosh 2.0, which
I know.
uh,
Don't. I really don't hope that's what's going on, because I mean, just looking. I mean, I'm not a Horde player, but I used to be, and just looking at the Horde, they Thrall went stepped down. Then they got Garrosh, who then did what he did, and then later got killed. And then they built up Vol'jin. They had this amazing arc for him, building up, and then they didn't use him, and then they killed him off, and now we have Sylvanas. So I really hope that they have a bigger plan than just, oh, we need a new bad guy from the Horde. I really hope they have a better plan than that, to be honest.
yeah, well, I really hope so too. I hope that, but I'm drawing parallels, of course, from Mists of Pandaria, where we had the old god, voidy stuff going on with a war chief, and I feel like we're traveling down the same road again.
I don't think so, though, because if we have to actually look at the evidence, I don't know, did you read the uh, the digital comic where Sylvanas is going to meet up with her sisters.
I did.
Because there's that void voice inside. Was it Illyria's
Uh-huh.
head? Illyria, one of the sisters. Who, as soon as Sylvanas is there, the voice goes crazy. Kill her! Kill her! Kill her! She's the real enemy. She's dangerous. I don't think the Void and Sylvanas is on the same page. It doesn't seem like it, at least. But we also do know that the Void whispers sometimes is lies. So who knows?
Who knows?
So I'm with Oreo. I think there's a lot of signs that mimic what we saw with Warlords going into it. This is a part of the storyline that lacks a perceivable big bad. Like going into Legion, I think one of the reasons it was so big on the hype was we pretty much all knew without even ever being told. We kind of knew, okay, we're actually going to go in and kick Sargeras' ass and just end the Legion once for all. That was a speculation all the way up to the end, and it ended up being true. I think that was one of the reasons why Legion had so much hype going into this one. Just like Warlords, it's kind of like we didn't really know what to expect, and Blizzard was kind of at a point where they were free to kind of take it how they wanted to. Especially now going into BfA, we were kind of past what story and lore has already been created, so it's really up to them to kind of create as they go.
And also, I think Legion was the last bit that Chris Metzen did.
Yeah.
So everything going forward is the existing people and Christy Golden. So hopefully, it feels like that all the storylines that's been told has been more uh, uh, incorporated into each other. It feels like the books are overlapping what's going on in the game, and the comics are overlapping what's happening in all of them, and it feels like everything is better connected now. Sometimes the books could feel a bit disjointed from what's going on in the game, and vice versa, and stuff like that. And I think even in Legion, I think they did a really good job of all the things that us as a book reader knew that was never before had been told in game. They actually told those storylines in the game as well in Legion, just to get everybody up to speed and things like that. So I feel like, at least in that aspect, they've gotten everything chained better
Well,
together.
and that's just it for me. I think moving forward, I'm cautious because I've seen this before, and I think that if Blizzard isn't careful and Decker triple checks everything, this expansion has potential to flop just like Warlords did. But I'm extremely optimistic and hopeful because they've got Christy Golden on board, who's kind of leading the story perspective, and she's I love all of the stuff she's done so far. Even the Horde book that she rewrote. So that's good. Ian, despite my issues with him kind of being this is how things are going to be, you're just going to have to like it. I don't really like that attitude out of him, but he has done a good job of staying on top of them and keeping content release schedules pretty frequent. And so I'm hopeful from that. And I think coming off of the Legion train, they've learned a lot and they've seen what really works. And so I think going into BfA, there's going to be a lot of just further building on what is already in place that has worked and is working. So I'm optimistic from that perspective. Looking at it from a story perspective, we have these 3 shorts that are coming out, and I was telling this to Cole, who's for those of you who may not know, he was one of the original co-hosts for TRC, and he's a personal friend of mine, has been for a very long time. He and I were talking off air one day, and I think these 3 shorts could be an indication of, with each tier of rating we're going to go through, or maybe not even necessarily coincidental with the tiers of rating, but major points throughout the expansion, we're going to see and deal with the internal struggles each of these 3 women have faced, because they all feel like they've been slighted in some capacity by their people or something they've done in the past. Like they all have their own version of an inner demon that they're dealing with. And I feel like we're going to have to deal with their inner turmoil, even if it is in a physical manifestation of some sort.
Shah of Jaina.
Right,
Shah
right.
of Sylvanas.
And I think the Jaina thing, we're just going to have to get her past her hump of, reconnecting with her people, the Coltiran, and getting over the whole Minithil thing, or Theramore thing, sorry, and just kind of reconnecting with the world and her place within it. I think the Azara thing, that's going to be a really cool perspective. Probably going to have to go back in some time. Not Warlords back in time, please. But, kind of rehash.
Can we get Caverns of Time back? I really like that place. It was an amazing way to I really feel like that was an amazing place to experience like things from the past. I would love to see us going back to and have a closer look at Ashara and what bitch she is.
But yeah, so we'll deal with her, and I think we'll also deal with the Sylvanas. I speculate it'll be kind of maybe reconnecting with her sisters, and whatever, getting her off of whatever mental crazy path she's on. And for me, I think it'd be really cool if we dealt with each one of those in an individual point, and then at the very end of the expansion, they've all kind of snapped out of whatever troubles they're dealing with, and then we have some big bad boss. So we're all going to have to realize our problems go way beyond Horde versus Alliance.
So,
That's never going to change. Now we have to like deal with whatever is in front of
so
us.
okay, so what you're saying is that Ashara will become a good guy and playable Nagras is hereby confirmed?
Maybe not even be a good guy. Maybe maybe we'll kill her and end her suffering, and she'll have a moment of epiphany right before she dies or something. Who knows? I don't know. But I think we are going to deal with each of these three women's troubles in some capacity.
Yeah. I feel
Wasn't
like
it, sorry,
sorry,
wasn't it kind of slipped in one of the interviews that they said that Ashara would be like the Gul'dan of Legion? That she
but
would be kind of that in between, middle of the road. See, as Ryan quickly Google searches it.
No, I was reading Twitch chat.
I don't know. It feels like they haven't set her up for that properly. Then, if that's the case, because one thing that I think they did do right about Gul'dan was that they really managed to, even in Warlords of Draenor, to set him up properly. To you actually hated that guy, and then all the stuff in Legion that we can't talk about anymore happened, and then everybody really hated Gul'dan. So I feel like they actually did a good job at setting him up as a bad guy, whereas Ashara has been, well, she has that one quest line in one of the zones. I can't remember the name right now. Yeah. And we haven't really seen anything from her since, so I don't know. I don't know. I just it could be that you're right, but I just don't feel like they've set her up properly yet, at least. So, but I haven't played through too much of the zone, so maybe you have more inside knowledge than I do in the beta.
I do think Oreo is correct. I do remember hearing something about her being a boss in one of the first 2 tiers of raid.
But I mean, she had a long time coming. She was supposed to be a boss back in the Cataclysm, but that whole thing got scrapped or something. But she was mentioned in the underwater zones back then. So I think a lot of players have been waiting to actually see her in action for quite a while, myself included.
And maybe there'll be some foreshadowing in terms of where she'll fall into place of things, in terms of what videos. Jaina was the first one released, which makes sense because one of our first orders of business going into BfA is to go, establish a relationship with whatever respective faction for each order alliance. So obviously dealing with the Coltirian and the Jaina situation is going to probably be one of the first things we do. Maybe Sylvanas will be next, and maybe Ajar is the end goal. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I am excited from a story perspective. I think they've done a fantastic job, like you said, Marty, of tying a lot of these digital comics, the book, these short, animated shorts and stuff like that into the hype of leading into. I think if they can keep everything fluid and tied together, in whatever medium that may come, be it the game, a video, a piece of text, whatever, I think from a story and content perspective, this expansion can be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to see what's going to happen. I have also heard a lot of people complaining a little bit on the internet, but I guess that's just people, right? It's just the internet.
We have trolls in game. We're gonna have trolls out of game.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
How do you kill a troll, by the way?
This is a dad joke.
Yeah, it is. You take away its internet connection.
And let's go ahead and hit the end stream button.
That's it. We're done.
Oh man, so I guess I would ask you. We've all said some things we're optimistic about. We've said some things we're not so optimistic about. Things we've had some reservations about. I guess in the overall schemes of things, are you excited or are you not so excited for this expansion? Where do you lie on that spectrum? I guess, Oreo, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited for it, but that's because I was like kind of continuing on doing something new. Uh, Once you've cleared a raid a few times and it becomes more of a chore to do something, then I'm kind of like, all right, let's get on to the next thing. Um, the only thing that I'm not really excited for is how this Azerite gear might work out. And that being that through Legion, we saw little bits of like incremental power through tier sets working with certain traits or certain spells or whatnot. Um, what I want to know, and we probably won't see this until the next tier is released, is what Azerite traits will get you that incremental power, I guess, relatable to like a legendary or a tier set or something, because you're always going to have something that is best in slot for you. But are we going to see that they're so close that it doesn't really matter, or are we going to see this one better than that one, in which you'll see a lot of people, not getting the gear that they want and quitting and re-rolling, or something similar to that, right?
Yeah, I am very hopeful that if primary stats are indeed weighted as they should be, that it won't matter what secondary stats are, and that your truly best in slot will always be the highest item level.
I've also heard that Convergence will still be the best trinket for warriors.
Wouldn't doubt it.
As every warrior deletes their
Don't delete it, guys. Don't delete it.
Well, if you do delete it, make sure you don't use your item restore for the month until you figure out what's going to be next. But people are going to laugh at me that have heard me say this before, but I think it's really shitty we're getting rid of tier sets still. I really do. They've been such a cool aspect of the game. I know thematically we're still going to have like aesthetic appearances with each raid tier. But I just, while Azerite armor is going to provide a new cool twist, I don't think it's going to adequately fill the void of tier sets and tier bonuses. So,
I don't know. I'm really a little bit with a leg in both camps here. I feel like, because on one hand, I understand why they want to maybe try something new and get rid of it at least for an expansion, and then they can always bring it back later on if it just didn't work. But on the other hand, I don't know. I want to see how it works before I completely rule it out. So I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted. I like the idea of the tier sets, but on the other hand, I also like the idea behind the new system, at least on paper. So I think it's one of those things we have to wait a few months and see how it feels.
my only two wishes for Blizzard are, please don't make me carry around 75% of my bags full of armor, and please don't make me carry around 70% of my bags in armor. It's I think Azerite armor, especially with the way they're trying to get away from people respecking from fight to fight or changing gear on the fly, I think the being able to change your gear and your talents is going to provide more of a situation where you're going to want to carry around, especially for hybrid classes. Or classes are going to want to change specs, not even necessarily from DPS to DPS, but from like tank to DPS or tank to heals or whatever. You're absolutely going to have to carry around multiple sets of gear, and that to me doesn't feel fun or good. You know what I mean? I hate disorganized bags. I know we always joke about my shirt chair and my mess behind the curtain here, but in game, I hate my bags and banks being disorganized. It drives me insane. I hate carrying all that gear, because then I feel like every time I have to go get a new piece of gear, I have to go sit on the training dummies for 2 hours, switching pieces of gear in and out and running sims to see which set is the best. And I think it should be more intuitive. I shouldn't have to sort through 15 bracers to figure out which one is the best. Like my Frost Mage was the worst, because I couldn't get rid of a piece of gear even if it was 10 on those lower, because while these next two upgrades might be better, 4 or 5 upgrades from now and other slots may make those bracers better again. Oh, so irritating.
It's just because some items were cooler than others.
Damn it, Marty.
Jesus.
I'm sorry. We still have 10 minutes left, right?
Yeah, right. The last 10
Oh, I'm
minutes.
ending early
Welcome
this week.
to the Dad Jokes by Marty segment.
Ba-dum-tsh.
But yeah, no, I mean, like I said before, we're gamers. We're always going to find things to bitch about or complain about or have reservations about, whatever synonym you choose to throw in there. But in the overall scheme of things, I have to say for me personally, I am excited for BfA. You know, we've got a new guild that we're running, trying to do some new things with, trying to do things better than we did them the first go around in Legion. So that's exciting. The guild is tied in with the podcast. So that's exciting. You know, the podcast is doing well. We just came off the Battle for a Main series, which received a lot of positive feedback. Things are going well. And I think even disregarding story and content, stuff like that, I'm excited for what is to come from a community perspective that, you know, the communities that I'm involved in going into BfA. And so I'm excited. And then, you know, then I bring in the content stuff. And like I said, I read the book, stuff like that. So I'm hyped to see where Christy and the WoW dev team takes us from a story perspective. So, but yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to add before we kind of wrap things up for the day?
Maybe to go a little bit more onto the gearing part of things. I
Okay.
think the reason why they tossed gear sets to the side, at least for this one, for an experiment, is because the way that classes feel, or I guess their output, you didn't want to balance a class around not having a tier set, and then when they get the tier set, they're unbelievably broken. So I have a feeling that that's kind of what they're experimenting with, is that they can, and we've seen it in tuning, they just do damage modifiers. You know, 1 week ret paladins will be super, super strong, and then they'll go, okay, let's turn this modifier down by 15%. Everybody cries, but maybe that'll be more what we see instead of, you know, this tier set has been nerfed by 50%, and the class has been turned down by 15%. Well, the people that don't have the tier set are going to be in a more, or going to be screwed until they get it. I mean, with the changes to the loot and all that stuff, it would really suck. So I think that's why we're going the Azerite gear route right now, at least.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I know that was one of their biggest struggles was class tuning, because not only, especially in Legion, because you had tier sets, you had legendaries, you had all these other things that largely affected classes and their balancing. And so, you know, by removing tier sets, it's just one less thing they have to balance around. But I'm sorry, I'm reading Twitch chat here.
It's just cake. Ignore
Yeah.
them.
So. Oh yeah. So our guildies like to come in and ramble on. Sometimes it's legit conversation, other times it's not. So, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I think that's all well and good, and I think that it's an accurate idea behind it and thought process. I think you were on track to what's actually going on with that Oreo, and I think they've even said as much, haven't they?
Yeah, I think that they wanted. I think the biggest thing behind this expansion is to stop the power creep from your secondaries or your sets, right? To have a let's just go off of like Fury Warriors. If you didn't have the 4 set for Fury Warrior, where you're doing all this massive bleed damage based off your crit, based off of all your cooldowns, if you didn't have that, then you were at the bottom of the meters all the time. But I feel at least with this Azerite system, you can be competitive in the mid range, even with terrible traits. I guess terrible wouldn't be the word to use, but maybe not the most ideal traits. You can still be middle of the pack if you know how to play your class properly.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. So, we are right about an hour today, guys, and we could absolutely keep conversating and run on way too long. But we're gonna kind of wrap things up here today. So, I did want to say, yeah, Marty's all out of jokes. Before we go, I did want to announce that next Saturday, at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, right?
Sunday.
Saturday for the book episode.
Ah, that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So next Saturday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, for those of you that are interested and don't care to be spoiled if you haven't read the book already, the Blue Recluse and the Blizzard Umbrella, the two other shows that Marty and I are on, we'll be doing a joint live episode on Twitch. I will link the Blue Recluse Twitch in the show notes down below, which is where it will be aired. We're going to be doing a book club episode on the Before the Storm book. So if you guys are interested, feel free to stop by. And then after the show, we both podcasts will upload the audio version to our respective podcast feeds. So I did want to announce that. I also wanted to announce that I know we've alluded to it before. There is a side project that Marty and I and the three other individuals who are on both the Blizzard Umbrella and the Blue Recluse have been working on. And we have some episodes recorded, and we will have a launch date sometime here in August. So we're getting closer, and I think there's a lot of you listening to this show that would like that one as well. So be looking for that date drop. It's coming here very soon.
Yeah, I'm reckon that we should probably dropping that around the 14th. Do you guys do anything there? Can we do something there?
I don't know.
14th of August.
Sure.
Something happening. No?
Video game Valentine's Day. Yeah, I don't think I'm busy that day by any stretch. So.
Okay.
No.
Good.
The podcast will literally be people all tabbing between.
Marty, didn't Marty just get done saying he was all out of dad jokes?
There's always one more, Ryan. That's always.
So, before I hit these two buttons we got here, I definitely wanted to thank each and every single one of you that stopped by for the live feed today. Thank all of you that are listening to the audio version or the YouTube version. Thanks, guys. If you guys have any questions or feedback or comments, feel free to chime in, get a hold of us on our Twitter or email, whatever. Or we definitely encourage you guys to stop on down to the Twitch show every Sunday at 2:30 Central Time. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So, you guys good? We can get out of here. Hit these two buttons. Cool. I'm gonna hit these two buttons, guys, and we'll see you next week, Sunday, 2:30 Central Standard Time with the Ask Mr. Robot crew. So look forward to that, guys. We will talk to you in the next episode. See ya. You guys want to find Marty? You can find him over at the Blizzard podcast he does, where they talk all things Blizzard games. The Blue Recluse. If you want to find him on Twitter, you can find him at Unamathil. For me, guys, if you want to find me and personally, you can find me over on my Twitch and Twitter, which are both at Mega Irish Gaming, or you can find me on my All Things Blizzard podcast, which I do with my good friend Dusty Porter, the Blizzard Umbrella. If you want to find us here on the show, you can find us at our Twitter account, which is at _TRC podcast, or you can find us on our email, theraidersconfessional@gmail.com, no apostrophe on the S. That being said, guys, Dusty, take us out of here, my man. See ya.
Sorry, I died. Was I supposed to stand in the green puddles or the orange ones?
Hey, get together over there, bud.
This show has been hosted by Dragon Powered Studios, and the intro and outro has been brought to you by Thankful Cow Solutions.
Moo.